You are here on a capture mission. You must find, capture, and extract our target. Capture them quickly before they escape.
How's she going, my son? And welcome to something a little different. I'm throwing my hat in the Warframe weapon review category of YouTube videos. Since this game doesn't have a super linear well, I suppose it has a linear narrative, but I mean it's an MMO. You do a lot of stuff outside of it. Effectively, Warframe Let's Plays tend to turn into review series, so I'm giving it a shot. Anyway, I'm reviewing a weapon that I've only recently discovered myself, but it's been in the game for a while. The Grinlok. The Grinlok is a single shot bolt action Grineer rifle. Now, an important distinction is that it is not a sniper rifle. So it actually uses the traditional rifle ammunition, and since it does so much damage per shot and so little ammo spent total, because its single clip is only 6 shots, I can honestly say for weapons that use rifle ammunition, this is one of the most efficient weapons in the game. I have yet to run underneath 500 ammunition with this gun in all the playtime I've used it. Now, give a look at the base numbers. Don't let that fool you. It does deviate a little bit from where your crosshair is, so it will... it is a hit scan weapon though, so if you miss, you usually know right away instead of having a projectile like an arrow or a plasma ball deviating too early in the flight and missing entirely. Whereas with a hit scan weapon, you tend to hit even when the accuracy isn't 100%. The critical chance is 15%, not amazing for a primary weapon, but not bad either. Critical multiplier is a healthy 2, so it doubles the damage. The fire rate, it is a bolt-action weapon, so your Warframe has to manually re-click the mechanism every shot, so the 1.67 fire rate is reasonable. Again, the magazine of 6 sounds small, and I kind of wish it had an even 10, I'll be honest. Excuse me. I kind of wish it had an even 10, just because a little OCD about it. But the 6 magazine clip will often take down any target you train all the shots on, or a group of smaller enemies if you are a decent marksman. Alarming, because obviously it's a freaking gun. Not much more needs to be said there. The reload is a little disappointing, but I'm just a particular person who really likes weapons that have really fast reload speeds. Obviously something I could mod for, but I usually don't. Now, the cool thing about this is that this gun has a 35% status chance base. That means any status mods and multi-shot really rack up the status chance on this gun very quickly. And with its other stats still being fairly reasonable, you can kind of get a nice all-around rifle. Now, it is primarily an impact weapon, meaning impact procs will be your most common if you don't do any other tinkering with it, which isn't the best proc in the game, but it's certainly better than puncture, because puncture only reduces damage the target deals, and since this game is a lot about killing targets, bam, 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 quick, 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 the puncture proc doesn't make as big of an impact. And a lot of the things that last longer, bosses, are immune to procs, or immune to some procs, and puncture is usually one of them. Doesn't really help. Impact, on the other hand, causes the target to briefly stagger, effectively losing control of themselves, giving you enough time to land another shot, possibly staggering them again. So it is useful. Now, its secondary damage is slash. which is good against any type of infested to various degrees, and any of the other factions. Well, any of the other factions' flesh types. Robotic takes reduced damage from slash, and the Grineer are always wearing armor. So unless you completely remove armor, you're better off using puncture damage unless you're doing something like 4 corrosive projections in a group or what have you. Now, the gun comes equipped with a V, or the fancy name for it, the Madurai slot, which is very useful since a lot of important things are in this Y slot. Apologies if I seem a little stuttery with my movements, but I'm playing this full screen for the recording, and the frame rate dies a little bit on my computer. I don't know why. But, your base damage mod, your multi-shot mod, shred, which is an option. I don't use it on this weapon at the moment, but it is a possibility. Your base crit mod, stuff and like that. A lot of important things for weapons are on the V, so it's one of the most commonly put in slots. I've put in specifically I've put in a V and I've put in a dash, and I will show you why. So when I fully modded her out, I gave it serration for the base damage, split chamber for the multi-shot. While multi-shot isn't as good for primaries as it is for secondaries, because secondaries can get confirmed multi-shots, 90% is still pretty damn good odds. Point strike for the base critical hit chance increase, taking it from 15 to 37.5, which is pretty good. And once I refine the mod I just took off to show you that, there it is. I will slip Deadly Sequence back in. Deadly Sequence being an exclusive mod to this weapon, giving it an additional 200% critical hit chance, bringing it up from 15 with both of these mods up to 67.5, which is pretty damn good odds. 2 out of 3 shots, give or take. RNGs be willing. Vital Sense makes those crits do more damage, taking it up from a double damage multiplier to a 4.4 times multiplier. That's quite the jump. I use the 60%, 60% dual stat mods for the elements, and I use gas primarily because it's another dot. And it also, when it goes off, does an explosion of gas damage, meaning I can turn a single target weapon into a multi-target weapon fairly easily. However, that feature is secondary on this weapon, because I've used my V slot, or my dash slot, the Naramon slot, to add a Fanged Fusillade. Now, the 120% physical damage mods aren't as good as, say, one of the 90% damage mods. And if you just want to do pure damage with this weapon, I would actually honestly recommend switching out the Fanged Fusillade with, like, Infected Clip or any of these dash ones that are boosting your damage. If I wanted to stick with the gas damage, for example, I would use the Infected Clip or Hellfire, either way, to increase the gas damage, making it each of the gas procs more potent. However, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make this weapon be a very high damage status weapon whose main status proc is still slash procs, because slash procs inflict a dot that ignores armor and ignores shields, and ignores armor both the type and the number that reduces damage, as well as shielding, meaning targets that get bled usually die pretty damn fast, particularly if a multi-shot lands 2 of them at once. And since now without the Fanged Fusillade, the gas procs outweigh the slash procs. In particular, if I were to put an Infected Clip on here, that really outweighs it. So the most common thing that will occur is gas procs. Now, you'll still get the other 3 physical procs, which is always a bit of a problem with physical status weapons, because you always end up getting the useless puncture or impact procs. Well, relatively useless impact procs and the completely useless puncture procs. You dilute your awesome procs in favor of the... Well, not in favor, but you dilute your awesome procs because the system makes you get the bad ones. But when I put the Fanged Fusillade back on, you'll notice that the slash damage is increased to 531% after all the other mods are taken into account. Physical status effects occur 4 times as likely than elemental status effects if both are on the same weapon. So this has 2,000 damage effect for the purposes of inflicting status, or for the purposes of determining status. So the gas proc will be the second occurrence, second most common proc, while the slash procs are the most common proc. Again, you still get the other two, but it does, skew the odds in my favor. Plus, I don't want to be 100% confirmed on this, but I'm pretty damn sure increasing the slash damage increases the effect of the actual proc. Now, will be a brief jump cut while I jump to the simulacrum, little testing ground for Tenno, that allows me to... Although actually, unless that night alert spy, nah, I'll skip it for now. I was gonna do the night alert, show you in the field, but spy missions I tend not to shoot unless I absolutely have to. Because I mean, why bother? Anyway, will be a short jump cut while I get to the simulacrum. Man, who uses the elevator? We're space ninjas. Seriously. And welcome to the simulacrum. A Tenno testing ground where you can use scanned enemies to, test your things in a controlled environment. Admittedly, not something you get a lot in the field, but it can be useful to determine if you're a real DPS min-maxy kind of guy. I'm not. I tend to prefer the feel of a good feeling weapon, and if the numbers line up well, then hey, all the more power to me. But I would like to have a controlled environment to test during a video. Pardon me. Okay, so where to begin? Okay, well, I like to test against a heavy, like the big unit of each faction. So, and we're going to test... We will test at 50. We will test at 50, because once you start getting to like 70, and especially when you get to the triple-digit levels, the enemies just start becoming ridiculous, and it's not a very fair test of most weapons, because you kind of need the stupidly, ridiculously broken stuff to be any effective against them. Now, I'm going to trap the enemy with Inarv's Devour ability. However, Devour is not a crowd control that increases the damage dealt to the target. I'm just going to be doing this so they stand still. So, these numbers are still completely accurate. The target is just not moving. Alright. Very effective. Admittedly, the critical hit points on Ancients are pretty damn impressive, so getting a crit and hitting his headshot point resulted in, I believe that was a 5-digit number? That was pretty impressive. And the healers also take bonus damage from the slash, so the infested targets get chewed up by this weapon pretty well. Although you might have problems with the sheer number of them because, well, it's the infested, it's what they do. Now, Arid Heavy Gunner is a ferrite armor target, meaning they will be taking reduced damage from the slash, and the gas proc does less damage directly, but the poison it causes afterwards will cause more damage. So let's see how it does against a 50 Arid Gunner. Now, I'm pretty sure there isn't a fundamental difference between any of the heavy gunners. I just use heavy gunner because they're the Arid Gunner, because it's very easy to find in my list. Now, as you can see, my direct shots were doing almost nothing because the armor is kind of ridiculous in this game. However, once I was using an armor ignoring ability, I shoot through that target in a matter of seconds. Particularly because, again, I got a headshot with that. Alright. Now we will find an alloy armor target. Which would be the Bombard. Again, I'm pretty sure like a Bombard and a Corrupted Bombard are basically the same thing. The difference is just they're different factions. If there are differences in terms of actual stats, please let me know in the comments below if you happen to know. But I'm pretty sure it's a reskin, and it's just there to behave different factions. Alright. As you can see, one good crit slash proc is all it takes to take down even some of the toughest targets. And even if you're not getting the headshots, landing a couple crits in the torso is still pretty damn good. Now we've done Fossilized Target, which is the heavy armor, air quotes, type of the infested. We've done ferrite and we've done alloy. Now we will do shielded. Now, shields are interesting in this because, unlike armor, shields are a separate health total, meaning a shielded target does not account for any of its resistances or weaknesses to its shield hit points other than what the shield itself provides. And Toxic and Bleed also ignore shields completely. So, whoa, hello. I might, although with a tech, most of his health is, as you can see, it's red. So it's going to be mostly health anyway, but I might actually kill this target before the shield's even depleted. Whoops, if I hit. As you can see, a multi-shot crit headshot almost one-shot the tech, and he is covered in bugs, and left him with only enough hit points to realize I am bleeding to death before he did. Now, I might ramp this up a little bit, because 50 does seem a bit squishy. I might be underestimating the effectiveness, or the relative durability of some of these mobs. So we're going to do another series of tests at 70. Another common level used in testing, usually because of the sorties. Kind of what people consider the end game of Warframe, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to say this game even has an end game, just because I have a feeling the scaling mobs are just in there because they haven't actually made a proper end game for this yet. Just a food for thought. Don't hook me, bro. Oh, God. No. Oh, don't shoot him. Okay, well, we can account for that damage being from carrier. I might do this test again. Again, critical headshot kind of destroys the ancient healers, or the ancients in general, because their critical hit point does way more damage than a normal headshot does on a humanoid. And yeah, for the infested, it's less about the status with this weapon, because I don't have to bypass armor at all. It's about the front-up critical damage. Now, or a ferrite armor target. De jure? Yeah, it's definitely the slash procs that do the most work on this weapon against armored targets. Now, you could switch your elemental combo. Something I'll cover more in a little bit once I'm done testing, showing off the effect against most of the armored targets. Alright, so Gunner is out. Now, normally I torso shot. I'm not a big headshot hunter in this, barring situations where I can, just because it's kind of more efficient just a center of mass shooting. But in situations like this where I have a target held or whatever, I can very easily take my time and let them bleed to death and be poisoned by my disgusting gun. Aesthetically, too, because it's a Grineer weapon, and they don't do aesthetics. They just slap the thing together, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, they break it down and make a better one. Although I don't think I've ever seen a Grineer unit actually using this weapon. Because the snipers use the Volkar, which is actually a bona fide sniper rifle, instead of being a bolt-action single-shot rifle, like the Grinlok is. Which is interesting. Anyway. Now, cover a tech. Yeah, I didn't get the big meaty headshot I did before. But as you can see, the base damage on this weapon isn't too bad anyway. And it has the added benefit, if you're into that kind of thing, of absolutely obliterating heads from time to time. Which is glorious to watch in action. Anyway, if you're not into the whole status thing, and just want to have the 35% status as an extra gimme... Whoops, wrong menu. You just want to have the 35% status as the occasional, oh, I deal a slash proc that like, completely gibs a target. One thing I've been considering is adding an additional dash to this weapon, an additional Neramon slot, and being able to use another elemental combo instead of fiddling around with the Fanged Fusillade. Biggest thing would be that you would switch out one of the 60/60s for that additional dash slot of damage. What else was I going to put? Oh yeah, I was going to put Shred in one of those slots because the fire rate increase is nice. When I was leveling this weapon and re-leveling it because I have formatted it twice, Shred was fun because it let me actually make the weapon a better crowd control weapon because of the punch through added by Shred. And the fire rate increase didn't hurt either because, again, I'm a bit of a center of mass shooter, so, you know, being able to just pump shots into one guy and clip his two buddies behind him is pretty good. Tends to make a weapon very viable. Particularly once I was also able to slot in the gas proc mod, because then, you know, two guys getting clipped by a gas proc, everyone is taking two explosions at once. Synergizes quite nicely. But again, the elemental combo, if you're really a real stickler about doing absolute min-max damage on each shot and don't really care about the status procs as much, switch your elements to whatever you wish. I wouldn't recommend switching to magnetic, though. Magnetic is the anti-shield element, but it isn't very useful. Unless you're dealing with a sortie where enemies have augmented shields, and thus they have shields that greatly outclips their actual hit points, even things like the techs, who are normally giant hit point sponges instead of shield sponges. But that's a personal opinion. Anyway, this has been my first little attempt at the whole Warframe review thing. If you liked it, let me know, and you know, if you liked it or didn't like it, let me know in the comments below, and with your thumbs up or thumbs down. This is the Grinlok. A dirty old bolt-action rifle. With a very satisfying set of sounds. Just listen to that. That's a gun. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Please engage in the Twitter, Tumblr, and please do subscribe. But until then, ciao for now.
Operator, do you understand? This Limbo is telling us his story in pure math. And I must say, he's quite witty.
Nerd!